Hello and welcome to Channel's Book Club. My name is Olakunle Kasumo and it's great to be on this show as always. I've got an interesting stat here. Let me read it to you. This is straight from Science Direct. Okay, so it says that infertility has been described as the most important reproductive health concerns of Nigerian women. Did you know that? The most important reproductive health concerns of Nigerian women, infertility. Now, estimations from demographic health surveys found an 11% prevalence rate, while clinical based studies suggested rates between 14.5% and 30%. That is a massive problem. So infertility is a big problem. That's established. From various sources across board. Infertility is a big problem in Nigeria. But what is the link between infertility and counseling? How can counseling help in solving the infertility problem? And then where does the issue of mental health come to play when it comes to infertility? These are very, very important connections to make. And our guest for today has written a book that addresses and connects all the dots. I'm talking about effectiveness of counseling techniques in managing infertility challenges. One of the reasons why this book is important is not just because infertility is a major issue in Nigeria, but also because the book addresses mental health. Mental health is key. I always say to people in this part of the world, we don't value that problem. We don't see that big problem of mental health until somebody is naked and walking the streets. We don't think people have mental health issues. But mental health issues are major, major, major issues, particularly in an environment where people are struggling to survive. The cost of living is high. So many, multiple challenges in our climate, in our environment, in our society. So you can imagine how many people are walking around with mental health issues. Now, for women, this is major. And how do you connect this with infertility? These are all done in this book that I think is a very important work by Dr. Idowu Adefokun. Let's get to meet with her and enjoy the conversation about her book.
Dr. Idowu Adefokun is an educationist, professional counselor, and author. Adefokun has a PhD in educational guardians and counseling from the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, a Master's of Education and Bachelor's of Education in Educational Guardians and Counseling from the University of Ilorin. She's currently a Deputy Chief Counseling Psychologist at the Federal University, Lokoja. Adefokun is the author of Golden Apple and Every Student. She joins Channel's Book Club to discuss her third book, Effectiveness of Counseling Techniques in Managing Infertility Challenges.
Dr. Adefokun, nice to have you on Channel's Book Club.
Good to be here.
Great to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Wait, before we get to your book, years ago, I remember university days and some of my colleagues would say, they're studying guardians and counseling. I used to wonder, what's guardians and counseling? What? The importance and the value and significance of the course never struck me until years later.
Yes,
I began to see to an extent. I say to an extent because it was when I read your book that it now really struck me. So, but it was years later after school that I began to see the significance, importance of the profession, in and how it applies to different areas of life.
Yes.
But when I was reading your book, I just said, okay. PhD in guidance and counseling you have, right?
Yes.
Please tell me a bit about, before we get into your book, a bit about, what you do.
Thank you so much. Counseling is so important for everyday life in any human. All of us as human, we need counseling. We need guidance. From the word guidance, even from the element of home. Me are telling the boy, a lad, don't go there, come back here, sit down here. That is guiding him or her. Again, professionally in academics and a layman definition of guidance and counseling, it's an interpersonal relationship. You bring out your personal concern out before a professionally trained guidance counselor. A counselor will facilitate understanding of the situation on hand, allowing the client to understand challenges, possibilities, advantages, and then he or she will make an informed decision. That is guidance and counseling. It's not the same thing as giving advice.
It's not the same thing as giving advice.
It's not the same thing as giving advice, because when you give advice, anybody can give advice, and the advice you are giving is from the superior to from the person giving advice to the person receiving it. The receiver of the advice has no contribution, but counseling is the receiver-centered approach. The decision is essentially that of the client. And it's fully so in future it will not shift blame. I wanted to do it the other way, or this person advised me to do, so this blame will go. So in counseling, the counselor is not part of the decision making, but is to facilitate the understanding, thorough understanding.
And counseling is a profession.
It is a profession.
It requires learning, knowledge, training, skills.
And right? Yes, and counseling is a product of applied psychology.
Applied psychology.
We learn all the theories in psychology. So now, based on these theories in psychology, we now apply it, and it flow into counseling.
So it's not a joke at all. But these days everybody is a counselor now. The radio, television, everybody is a counselor now.
It's not like that.
It's not supposed to be.
It's not supposed to be.
Interesting. But so, what's made you interested in counseling?
In counseling, I've always loved to be in health profession, like nursing, biochemistry, but like we are saying, like I was saying earlier, you are not given admission to read the course you wanted. They say manage this, and instead of staying at home. So that's why I went into education. So during the course of my undergraduate in education, I discovered that I fell in love with psychology. So in order to pursue psychology the more, I went in for
that's a very interesting story. And today you are a PhD holder in the field. Wow, yes. Fantastic. But so you teach the subjects, right? As much as you practice it.
Yes,
right
I teach as much as I practice. Yes.
So that's led us to effectiveness of counseling techniques in managing infertility challenges. We have a lot to talk about.
A lot indeed, sir.
So can you share with us the story behind this book? What led you to write this book?
Yes, sir.
Because this is applying counseling techniques specifically to the big problem of infertility in this part of the world.
Yes, sir. Please, let me address the question, answer it in two ways.
Okay.
One, the book itself, it's a published PhD thesis. So essentially it has all the features of a PhD academic record. So chapters 1 to 5, chapter 1, introduction, background to the study, statement of the problem, hypothesis, research question, limitation to the study, assumption of the study, significance of the study, and like that. Then chapter 2, review of related literature, theoretical framework, chapter 3 methodology. It is essentially a product of experimental research. I have 2 experimental group and 1 control group. I have a treatment plan for each of the experimental group, and of course control group receive their own treatment after the administration or collection of data for the study. Now, the story behind the book, while studying counseling, I noticed that a lot of theories in counseling, we have so many, but the one on behavioral therapy, that is, we have Albert Ellis' theory of rational emotive therapy and Aaron Beck theory of cognitive behavior therapy, that essentially stated that the behavior of an individual is as a result of the product of his or her thinking.
The behavior of an individual is as a result of his or her thinking.
Now, when something happens, it is not what happens, activating event at A, that matters, but the thinking about what happened will bring about certain feelings, and the feelings will result into consequences. That is ABC theory of counseling. So whatever at all that if you just take a look at it as I don't mind, life goes on, let me go ahead, I will be better. That is the behavior, the reaction to activating events. Then you are good to go. On the other hand, if the person says, this has happened, that means the life is, I can't go on again, then I am doomed, I am this, that would not be nice. So the behavior that followed what happens is as a result of thinking. Then the theory now said, when you allow someone to readjust his or her thinking, then he or she will behave very well. Differently. I now remember, if I had that knowledge only, the way I behaved when I had infertility challenges in those days, I wouldn't behave that way. So
your thinking affects your behavior.
Thinking affects behavior.
That's in layman's level language, like our own. You are
exactly.
With the way I think affects the way I behave, or impacts on, or determines.
Correct. You are very correct.
Determines the way I behave.
Yes.
That's very powerful. So that's not just some motivational speaking stuff.
No,
that's
it's scientifically
proven.
Application of psychological principles that will give us some techniques that we can practically apply to affect behavior for positive change or changes.
Everyday life. So back to what you said, you just hinted now that you had infertility challenges
for just 3 years.
Just 3 years.
And those years were years of, as in, people will call me and say, calm down, you are changing, your behavior is changing. I say, why wouldn't change? I want to give birth. I'm not pregnant yet. And so the behavior, it is not, so it was later when I got into counseling as a student, undergraduate, that I now understand, okay, if I had behaved normally, if I shouldn't have allowed this to affect the way I was behaving.
So I want to explore that. So just for 3 years, you were I shouldn't use the word just, because it's not. Yes.
Yes, sir, I agree with you. Just for 3 years, because some stay 8 years, 12 years, 15 years.
Wow. So 3 years, you were already under serious cultural pressure.
Yes.
People around you.
People around me, significant ones, name calling, direct name calling, insult, direct. I will as if to say people should give me time now, but there's no time from every angle. So I allowed those things to affected me negatively.
Well, this is very interesting, Dr. Adefoku. But let's get into the meat. What's your primary message in this book? What's the core?
Thank you. The primary message is that counseling services should be part of infertility treatment in all government or private hospitals.
Counseling?
Yes.
All
government or private hospitals should put in place counseling services for women with infertility challenges. How do I mean? At a time I was in the hospital for 6 months intensive work. So I noticed that before treating people living with HIV/AIDS, they will retrieve their folder. The first point of call is a counselor's office. It is from the counselor's office that their folder will be taken to the medical doctors that are treating them. The same way should apply to treating women with infertility challenges, because a counselor will be able to ask and discuss, how are you feeling? The woman will respond, this is the way I'm feeling. Insult from this one, I'm already depressed, I have lost hope. Counseling will now come in to calm her down. Like the experience the illustration I was giving about cooperating with gynecologists for medical examination. That woman wouldn't have seen it as an insult, or my religion will not permit me to go to this extent. But it's not easy, because people tend to just give advice. It has not gotten to that now. I wrote only on anxiety and depression. Other aspects of psychosocial distress, it could be guilty of previous encounter. Maybe when an unwanted pregnancy, let me get rid of it. The person will be feeling guilty. Maybe that is it. So a medical doctor will not go deep into this those aspects.
Dr. Adefoku, you are saying, and I noticed that in your book,
yes,
that infertility, a lot of times, the problem of infertility is a psychological. I'm trying to explain the need for counseling in solving the problem rather than attacking it purely from a medical. A doctor tries to fix the problem thing. The reason why you are saying let's go through counseling is that a lot of times a problem needs to be solved.
Yes.
Is that correct?
It's correct. In my literature review, one of the authors said that the more relaxed the woman is, the faster for her to get pregnant. But if you are not relaxed and you are anxious, too much anxiety will delay the process of achieving pregnancy. And that is where counseling comes in.
Counseling is a potent approach. I'm reading page 7.
Yes.
Counseling is a potent approach for reducing psychological distress. In this study, cognitive restructuring counseling and brainstorming counseling techniques are the two treatment interventions used to investigate into effectiveness of counseling services to assist women and infertility challenges. Dr. Weno scatter the brain of women.
Not at all. The cognitive restructuring is a counseling technique. One of the so many techniques in counseling, like dream analysis, role playing, modeling, systematic desensitization. We have a whole lot of them. But cognitive restructuring and brainstorming, only these two were used in this work. So cognitive restructuring, from the word cognition, recognition, counseling will help women with infertility challenges to recognize how being too much anxious or feeling depressed or feeling sad affect the rate at which she will achieve what she desires. A lot of factors are involved. Nobody is disturbing her, but because younger siblings got married after her,
and they're already having three children.
Three children. A family member just put to bed, and so cognitive restructuring is a technique that will allow her to simply, in a layman's language, cognitive restructuring is to help to recognize, identify, see where you are missing the point. Then restructure your thinking.
Structure your thinking.
Structure your thinking.
Yes.
If possible, write them down and retrace your step to achieve, to eliminate or reduce or manage anxiety or depression. The
brainstorming one is the one that helps you to find the solution, right?
Is to find solution, or ask yourself several questions. Is anybody disturbing me?
That will lead you to the solution.
Is this problem, am I really getting it hard on myself? What other option do I take? So that's why the brainstorming.
I think that about summarizes the book, Doctor. Am I correct? Effectiveness of this is you advocating for counseling to be brought into managing the challenge or the problem of infertility, basically.
Yes, indeed. Because under recommendation, I also appreciate the fact that it's not only medical treatment will do its part, counseling will also contribute. Why? The definition of health, according to World Health Organization in 1948, says in part that state of health is not just absence of illness, diseases, of infirmity. It is also involved the state of psychological balance, emotional balance. So for treatment in gynae treatment to work, stable emotion, psychologically being balanced, will contribute to achieving getting pregnant.
Dr. Adefokun, thank you so much for sharing this with us, writing this book, publishing it, getting it out there. Such an important subject. Lambert Academic Publishing. I hope it's easy for people to get this book out there.
It is. Lambert is from Germany.
Oh, it's a German publishing firm. Interesting. So this was published in Germany.
It was published in Germany. Their publishing crew are very.
I guess that explains the quality.
Yes.
Well, not that our own people don't publish quality too. So let me not.
It has a story behind it.
But it's okay. So it's people can contact you to get copies.
Typing it online alone will just do, and it has been translated into other 6 international languages.
Really?
German, Spanish, French, Italian, and Portuguese.
Wow.
And French.
That's impressive. Yes. Well done.
6 other languages.
Wow.
International languages.
Well done. Well done. It's a very important subject affecting women around the world.
It is.
Yeah, so I can understand why. I mean, anybody will find this very interesting, even though it's very academic. But
despite the fact that it is academic, the literature review is well loaded on the simply. It's very simple to understand. However, people in academics, especially if your research will be on experimental research, this is an ABC of what to follow. It will make your work easy as a researcher.
Thank you for joining us on Channels Book Club, Dr. Adefokun. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
This is where we have to end the show today. As always, we'll be delighted to get your feedback through any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. My name is Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.